This is the Comicstorian Full Story channel. This is where we re-upload a lot of our older videos because due to the algorithm, if we do one type of video, you guys are more likely to see it. So this is where we re-upload as an archive our older full stories. Today we're going to be bringing you all 3 parts of Vampire Batman. This was a trilogy of Elseworlds that DC put out, telling the story about how Batman became a vampire and what happened in that situation. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's full story video right here at Comicstorian Full Story.
Lately, there's been a little bit of a red rain that's been falling over Gotham, causing many people to stay indoors, as well as Bruce Wayne. However, as he dreams, he can see a mist come into his room, and soon, that mist turns into a woman. It's as if the woman's eyes pin him down, not allowing him to move, though through her murmured words, he can hear her say something about the night, the eternal darkness, and a gift. As he wakes, the woman is gone, and it was all just a dream. Later that night, Bruce heads out to investigate a recent string of murders, all with the victims' throats slit. Each time he goes out, he's always just too late to find the one doing this. And the next night, Bruce awakens from the same dream again, but he feels better this time, refreshed, vibrant, and he feels that this night will be special. As he sits and watches from the rooftops, Bruce sees a homeless man pushing a cart, and from the shadows, there's a hiss. Suddenly, a woman leaps out, slashing at the homeless man, and once he falls, the woman leans down and bites into his neck. Bruce jumps down to stop the woman, and then he sees that there's something different about her. She's clearly mad, but now, she's almost demonic. The woman quickly jumps up again towards Bruce, and he tries to fight her off, but the woman manages to hit Bruce and escape. He quickly chases her down the alley that she ran down, except the alley is a dead end, and she is nowhere to be found. After going back to the victim, Bruce notices these killings were not just the throats being cut. The throats being slit are a cover-up for the bite marks that the victims had just received. Once going back home, Bruce gets back into bed, and like always, he has the same dream of the woman coming to visit. However, this time, he can hear her words more clearly. Vampires are real, and not all of them are evil. Bruce wakes up and he can tell that something is different. Something happened. His suspicion was confirmed when he went to a car and ripped the door handle off, and then he discovered that he could completely lift the car. With all of this going on, Bruce went to visit Ariane to learn about vampire lore. She tells him that the common knowledge of vampires was supposedly created through evil alchemy of the blood, giving them immortality, increased strength, and sensitivity to the sunlight. They can also transfer this condition through bites. They were also able to transform into a bat, mist, or even wolves. And they are only harmed by silver, the cross, sunlight, or a reliable oak stake. Taking this information to heart, Bruce heads out to the courtyard where he chased the woman to see how she managed to escape, and as he looks around, he sees a storm gate. So if they can transform into mist then, he walks over to the storm gate and with a slight tug, he rips the bars from the ground and he easily tosses it to the side and he jumps down. But what he finds isn't the 3 bodies that have been reported dead, but a lot more. A whole lot more. At the base of the pile of corpses, there is something that begins to crawl out and it looks hungry. And then more begin to move. Bruce begins to escape, but then he finds more of these creatures. And these ones are looking more human. So Bruce does what he must and he begins to fight, and even with his new strength, he can't stop all of them. That is until one of them is shot in the back with a wooden stake, and soon the rest fall. Bruce begins to watch these bodies hit the ground, and he hears a voice, and he sees a woman telling him, vampires are real, but not all are evil. And then he realizes that this is the woman. This is the woman from his dreams. She tells him that he doesn't need to fear her, but before she can continue, the wind picks up the sewer and everyone sees a giant bat fly down, telling the woman, Tanya, we meet again. The bat begins to transform into a human shape, telling them to get on your knees and end your lives. Slowly, Tanya and her followers begin to drop to their knees and they pull out their guns, pointing them at their own heads. They struggle not to, but they can't help themselves any longer, and these people will be under the full control of this mystery man. So Bruce jumps in, kicking the man into the sewers, telling Tanya to escape. As the man gets back up, he starts to attack, slashing away at Bruce's stomach. And as Bruce is backed into a corner, he tells this man, I love this. So he takes the blood and he begins to draw on the wall in the form of a cross, telling him, come at me if you can. The sun shines down through the sewers, and with no other choice, the man begins to change back into a giant bat and he begins to leave. But not before stating that the next time that they meet, Bruce's blood will be his. As the man leaves, Bruce pulls himself out of the sewers. He won't be able to do much else if there isn't any blood left in him. After going home and resting for the night, Tanya appears before him, telling him that once again, she is here not to take, but to give. The one thing that he's going to need before all of this is over. What's happening to Gotham? It's a harvest by the Lord of the Undead, and Bruce finishes her sentence stating, by Dracula. She explains that Dracula is building his army using the homeless people around Gotham until he is ready to take the rest of the city. But Bruce stops her asking, how is it that you're supposed to oppose him then? Tanya tells him, by losing her humanity. A long time ago she was converted and she watched as Dracula ate people, but one night after watching a child she realized was from her former life, she escaped. She lived off animals, but eventually developed serums, an artificial plasma that can help her wean off the cycle of killing and creating more undead. Though it was not an easy task, she was able to free herself. From there, she began giving that serum to others who wished to be like her and oppose their master. But after all of this time, she was never able to get close to him. That is, until he came to Gotham. However, even though they have not been under his spell for very long, they can still not reset his actual presence, which is why she came to him. Right now, he is Gotham's last hope. The two of them will work together to seek out Commissioner Gordon to tell him about their plans, but after explaining the whole vampires and Dracula thing, he's a bit hesitant on believing them. Tanya tells him that she'll show him and she baths her fangs, causing Gordon to shoot her. And after the shots, she stands back up stating if she really wanted his blood, 1,000 bullets wouldn't stop her. So he says that he'll get the word out, but what is it that they plan to do? Bruce tells him that he's not sure, but Dracula hurt him and he needs rest. But we do have a plan to take out all of his minions. So he begins to explain, and as he does, he falls to his knees, still not fully recovered from Dracula's attack, and Tanya takes him away. And as Gordon leaves, a giant bat figure appears before him. As Bruce starts to wake up, he sees himself hooked up for a blood transfusion from Tanya. She tells him that their time is short. Dracula has taken his friend. Thinking it's Alfred, Bruce jumps out of the bed and begins running downstairs, and then he sees Alfred there. So who did she mean by his friend? But before long, vampires begin to attack the manor, jumping through the windows, and with Bruce's new blood, they manage to take them out rather easily, and then they begin staking them through their hearts. So he gets back up, and Bruce begins to hear on the TV a special report has gone out, that James Gordon is currently missing. Bruce tells Alfred that he knows what he needs to do. They can't drop their plan now, and Alfred asks if they're really going to, but Bruce stops him. Yes, you know where to meet me once this is all over. Bruce heads back into the sewers and he sneaks up on a group of guards and he throws batarangs, getting their attention, and then he begins causing them to chase. As he ducks through the sewers, he begins leading them back to the manor, and when they all get to the opening, Tanya and her men begin to open fire on the vampires from behind. The rest of the vampire clan begins to chase Bruce as he blows a hole in the wall into the Batcave. All of the minions make their way into the Batcave as Bruce runs upstairs and he prepares for the explosion. And the Batcave begins to explode, bringing it to the ground, and the sunlight begins to open up, burning everyone, leaving only Tanya and another vampire alive. She tells him that he is the last one, and he taunts her, stating that she can't get him without killing herself, so she does. She leaps out, grabbing the man and holding them both in the sunlight, and once it's done, Tanya's dead. So is the man. So Bruce presses a button and the rest of the manor is destroyed with it. As the dust settles, Bruce gets out knowing of Tanya's sacrifice, keeping the vampires down with her. And to that he tells her, rest in peace. Once he stands over the wreckage, Dracula swoops down and Bruce tells him, you know, this is far from over. Bruce leaves for the meeting place where Alfred is waiting and he begins preparing for the next battle. And Alfred begins to ask, how do you plan on getting there? We don't even have a car anymore. Bruce takes off his jacket, showing him wings, telling him, we won't need a car. This was my gift from a heroic woman. And with that, Bruce flies off, and he makes his way to the tower where Dracula is staying. As Dracula sits drinking blood, asking Gordon when does he think he will come, a batarang flies through, knocking the cup out of his hands. Bruce tells him, now, leaping into punch, and the two of them begin their struggle, each punching and knocking each other away. Once the time comes, Bruce unties Gordon and throws another batarang into Dracula's face, but these ones, they're laced with silver. After many more are thrown, weakening him, Dracula begins to escape, and with his wings, Bruce follows. As he flies above him, Bruce waits for the perfect time, and then he strikes. The two begin punching and fighting in the air, and Dracula grabs a hold of Bruce to bite into his neck. Lightning strikes a nearby telephone pole, and using this chance, Bruce stabs Dracula with a batarang, and then aims them both down towards the broken telephone pole. As they get closer, Bruce kicks Dracula off, sending him down, piercing him through the chest with a telephone pole. Dracula begins to scream out in pain as the stake goes through his entire chest, and Bruce watches as he begins to burn until there's nothing left. But even after killing him, the bite that he received is still too much, and Bruce falls. After following them, Alfred jumps out of of his car stating, "No, no, no, no." And word begins to spread, and with the destruction of Wayne Manor, Bruce is pronounced dead. Alfred leaves, going back to where he and Bruce met, and then he goes down into its basement to look over Bruce's body, stating he still can't get over the fact that there wasn't a spark of life left in him. Bruce leans up, stating, "I am dead, but don't worry. Bruce Wayne is dead, but Batman will live forever." Though the man known as Bruce Wayne is dead, Batman lives on, protecting the streets of Gotham through the shadows. However, one night, after taking down some street thugs, Bruce tosses the men into some nearby trash, knocking everything over. One thing that falls over is a trash can with a woman's body in it. Along the neck, she has 3 sets of puncture wounds, which means that what him and Tanya did at Wayne Manor didn't kill all of Dracula's family. There must have at least been one nest that they had missed. It may be too late for him, but there is still time to stop this woman from turning. So Bruce places a stake in her chest, and then with one swing with a rock, the stake pierces her heart, and Bruce tells himself that it seems his work has just begun. 7 nights later, Joker makes his way through town, and he goes down into the sewers of the city looking for something. But after a bit of wandering about, he finds what he's looking for. A group of half-rotten, foul-smelling, sunken-eyed men. One of the men begins to hiss at him and lunges towards the Joker. And just as he goes to bite him, a flower on the Joker's jacket sprays water. Holy water. He then pulls out a cross laughing. And one of the men says they can rid him of that cross, yet he still laughs. And the Joker tells him, "Of course! I couldn't live without laughter. Sure, you could kill me, but if you forego my blood and trust me, it tastes terrible. We can embrace me for who I really am, your new leader." The next night, Bruce returns to the makeshift hideout that him and Alfred are staying in, and as Alfred pours Bruce his sustenance, he drinks it up and thinks to himself about how this is getting less and less effective, while the other hunger begins to rise. Alfred asks if he's okay, and Bruce tells him, "I'm fine, just thinking." Alfred then hands Bruce a wooden stake, stating, "It's hollow and it's weighted with metal, perfect for throwing. You've gotten pretty good at making them. Maybe you should shoot for a dozen a day?" Bruce takes the dagger and he tells him, "Daggers or not, I will be shooting for them all." Elsewhere, at the Cardona mob house, Creech, Joker's right man, sits before Cardona himself on behalf of the Joker. Cardona says that it's pretty insulting if this Joker couldn't meet him in person. And just as Creech begins to explain that the Joker is a little strange, he begins to grab his stomach in pain. Cardona asks what's wrong because it looks like bad acting, or maybe he's wired. Mobsters begin to surround Creech and he tells them that it's not like that, it's just that he's famished. And he jumps out, biting one of the guards in the face. More vampires begin to jump in through the windows, attacking the remaining guards. Creech then grabs a hold of Cardona and the Joker walks in himself, stating, "Now you're sucking in style! No more sewer nests for this growing family of fangs!" A few days later, Bruce follows up on a lead at the cemetery regarding their newest residents, the Cardona mob boss and his 3 bodyguards. Inside, though, it's rather unusual. They weren't buried, and there are no crosses on any of the caskets, which could only mean out of the mausoleum, the bodyguard with the bitten-off face peeks out, stating that the coast is clear, and then suddenly a wooden stake flies through his heart, and Bruce jumps in. He throws another stake at another guard, and then he grabs the last remaining one and stakes him in the heart. Cardona shouts, "What are you doing? You're a vampire yourself." And Bruce tells him, "I'm not like you, though." Cardona then says, "The old Batman didn't kill anyone. Now you're just a one-man holocaust." And Bruce shouts, "I'm not like you. I don't drink blood." But Cardona says, "No, but you sure spill it, huh? Even if you don't drink blood, I bet you really want to. Quenching that thirst, that awful thirst." And he begins to think about it, and Bruce tells him, "No, I won't." And then he grabs Cardona, stabbing a stake through him. Once Cardona's body hits the ground, Bruce pulls out a hatchet, and then he begins to swing. And in another part of town, Creech begins to follow a woman down the streets. She asks him if he's following her, and he tells her, "No, I'm hunting you." Creech begins chasing and then changing into a wolf before finally tackling her to the ground and ripping off her shirt. He then bites down on her shoulder and the woman kicks him off, jumping into the river below. He then watches as the woman swims away, knowing the running water cannot be crossed by the undead. Later, the woman returns home telling her cats that she feels a bit sleepy and she'll feed them later. Word begins to travel as Joker and his gang of vampires begin to take out Gotham's major mob houses, their latest being Manny the Shark. Bruce breaks into one of Manny's clubs just before biting down on the one of his dancers. As the fight breaks out, Joker knocks on the door stating, "Nice club!" But he sees Batman punching Manny, stating, "Oops, this place just got a little too kinky for me. I'll see myself out." After finally struggling and throwing Manny onto a table, Bruce's thirst begins to set in as he looks at the young dancer. But he has to fight for it. He has to force down that hunger. And he slams a stake into Manny. Bruce turns to the woman telling her, "Get out of here. Find some other kind of work." Back over at the woman's house that escaped Creech, she wakes up to a full moon. And as she sees it, she begins to change. Her body begins to change into a cat creature. But one thing's for sure, she will make whoever did this to her pay with their blood. The woman goes up to the rooftops waiting, looking for the monster that did this to her, and then she sees him, and she jumps. As the woman leaps onto him, she swings, hitting Bruce out of the air, and the two of them come crashing onto the rooftop. They begin punching and kicking each other until Bruce pins her down, holding out another wooden stake, and then he stops because she's not a vampire. The woman tells him to do it. He turned her into this, so just end it, but Bruce stops, telling her that she's wrong. He's never seen her before. She struggles, asking if he's a victim too, and if so, let her help him. All she remembers is that she was bitten by a wolf. Isn't that what happened to him? And Bruce stops, asking if what bit her sucked her blood, and she says no. And Bruce sees that she doesn't seem to have the urge to suck blood. He then tells her to just leave. No! And the woman says that if he needs her, her name is Kyle. Selina Kyle. After the run-in with Selina, Bruce heads back to his lab to work on a formula for the serum, as its effects are now making him weaker and weaker, while his thirst for blood grows stronger. But it's of no use. He is damned, and he will need help. Later, Alfred comes down into the basement with Bruce's substance for the evening, and as he walks in, he sees Bruce huddled against the wall. He tells Bruce that he hasn't taken his, and then Bruce knocks the serum away, stating, "It's not enough anymore! Nothing's enough! Get out of here! Get away from me!" Alfred leaves as the serum lays on the floor, and Bruce begins to lick up what he can, stating it's not nearly enough. Then he sees a rat, so he grabs it and he opens his mouth and he bites down on it. The blood begins to drip from his face and hands, and Bruce shouts, "No! No! Why did Tanya have to die? I can't do this alone!" Outside on the rooftop, Selina begins to clean herself up as she hears a scuffling in the distance, and what she finds is Bruce telling her that he does need her help. She grabs a hold of Bruce and takes him into her apartment where she lays him down to rest, and as the morning comes, he wakes up to see Selina back in her human form. She tells him that she only changes when she sees the moon, but all that Bruce can think about is how his bloodlust has been eased almost completely. Could it be something that Ariana said before? Maybe this woman's caring did help? Someone to hold him while he slept? Once the night begins to fall, Bruce and Selina go out to take another mob nest for the vampires. But Bruce asks if she thinks that she's really ready for this, as Selina tells him she just can't wait. Inside the manor, the vampires are feasting on a woman, and then Bruce and Selina crash through the roof. As they land, Selina sees just what the vampires are doing, and she begins swinging and cutting everyone in her path. It doesn't take the two of them long before all of the vampires are defeated, and then she looks down at one of the women, and Selina asks, must they do it to them too? Bruce hands her a stake, telling her that if not now, then later, after they have risen. They each take a woman, and they push the stakes through their hearts. Once Bruce finishes cutting the heads off, he tells Selina that he was right. No more random attacks. Their tactics are more organized with the Joker behind them. They can go out and clean another nest or two, but then he'll know for sure. So tomorrow morning, he's going to need some assistance in the daylight. As the sun rises, Bruce calls Jim and Alfred to begin work on staking some more of the mob nests. But as the night sets in, Bruce and Selina go back out to follow the Joker to an abandoned warehouse. They sneak in, and then from the shadows of the warehouse, the remaining vampire monsters surround them. Crossbows begin to fire, and Bruce and Selina dodge the oncoming bolt, and then through them, the two of them begin their attack. As Bruce continues on stabbing people with stakes, Joker watches from the platform above, seeing how 13 of his last 15 vampires have just been killed. And one of the final two remaining is Creech, which Selina has already been working towards. Creech tries to escape, but after seeing him transform into a wolf, she knows that this is the one who stalked her, the one who terrorized her, and she strikes. She starts ripping away at Creech's chest until finally she pulls out his heart, holding it over her head. Bruce stabs the final vampire, and just as he does, Joker readies himself and he fires his crossbow. Selina sees Joker, and as he fires, she jumps in the way, taking the bolt to her back, and she falls before Bruce. As she begins to die, she tells him that it was good while it lasted, and he grabs her, telling her, "No! No!" Joker readies a second bolt and he fires, but before hitting, Bruce turns back, grabbing the bolt out of midair, shouting, "You killed her! You killed my last hope!" Bruce leaps after him, and the Joker says that it looks like it's time for his last-ditch effort, and he runs off. Bruce chases him into a church surrounded by crosses. He tells Bruce, "Sorry to squelch your thirst, but..." Bruce sees all of the crosses, but it doesn't bother him in the least. And then the Joker sprays his holy water, and Bruce just tells him, "That was refreshing. It's because I didn't drink the blood of a human yet. I can defy what would normally stop a vampire." And then he grabs the crossbow, breaking it. Joker tells him, "Do it! Wet your beak! Sink your fangs in! But just know that my red stuff will blacken your pure heart!" Bruce shouts, "Silence!" And he swings his arm, hitting and breaking the Joker's neck. And then he begins to dive into his urge. And he bites! He tells himself no, but as the Joker's blood runs down his face, the crosses begin to take effect. Quickly, Bruce stabs the Joker, and he makes his escape. But the damage was done, and Bruce begins to lose himself. Down in the basement of their hideout, Alfred reads a letter left by Bruce, which explains that if he reads this, then him and Jim will have to do what they must. And he asks Alfred and Jim not to fail him when he needs them most. With tears in his eyes, Alfred grabs a hold of Bruce's hand, and with the other, he strikes down the stake into Bruce's heart. Bruce begins to mutter, "Peace, forever." And as he lay there, Alfred and Jim walk off. Though not truly dead, Bruce lays in his tomb, conscious but unable to move, unable to die. All he can do is wait, living a false death that never comes. But since that night, all Alfred can remember is when Gordon struck that stake into his master, and every night waking from the same nightmare. He killed his master, his friend, the only savior this dark city has ever known. But now, what will become of Gotham? Elsewhere in the city, a prostitute sees a man in the streets and offers her services. However, before the man even has a chance to answer, a sewer lid shoots up from the street and a giant scaly arm pulls her under. It is not a vampire sinking its teeth into the woman's flesh, it is a man. A large man with the teeth of a crocodile. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of Gotham, there is another man, one wrapped head to toe in rags outside of another man's house. Inside that home, the man hears a rock thrown through his window and he finds a note asking, "Are you scared?" The man in rags enters the home, asking the resident if he remembers a Jonathan Crane, a big gangly geek who loved to torture and terrify. Because he wouldn't recognize him now, he's changed. The man in rags throws down a vial and a gas begins to fill the room and the man begins to scream out, "Keep away!" The man in rags then slashes the other man's throat, stating that he is the Scarecrow, master of fear. Back over at the brownstone, Gordon knocks on the door of Alfred Pennyworth to talk to someone who knows what went down. Alfred lets Gordon in and he brings him tea, and as Gordon sits, he says that he's not too sure what's worse, the nightmares that they share or the reality of his job. The Bat did things a normal cop couldn't, and now he's gone. All hell thinks that it's been issued some kind of a license and is arriving in swarms to Gotham. The Penguin, Poison Ivy, the district attorney Harvey Dent, who now calls himself Two-Face. But what's more, there are new freaks, one calling himself Scarecrow, and then there's rumors of a humanoid crocodile haunting the sewers. All of these people are killers. Gordon lights a cigarette, stating that sometimes he wonders if they did the right thing, driving that stake into the man. At least the devil they knew was once a dark angel. Soon after, Gordon says that this is hardly his problem, but thanks for listening. Good night, Alfred. And as Gordon leaves, Alfred thinks to himself that surely, even as a vampire, the master can't be evil. He heads down into the tomb, asking for forgiveness for what he's done and what he's about to do. And he grabs a hold of the stake that is piercing the inside of Bruce, and he pulls until it finally releases its grip. Bruce jumps up, asking, "What have you done? Why didn't you take my head? I had just loosened my black heart, only to pump the foul blood of the Joker into me." Alfred tells him that surely he's still the same man inside. He just couldn't bear seeing him like that. The city needs him. And Bruce shouts, "Gotham does not need another monster." But Alfred explains what's been happening in his absence. Alfred then offers himself, if only to give Bruce the strength to stop things, to make things right again. And Bruce knocks him away and begins to fade into red mist, leaving the home. Elsewhere, the Penguin leads a group of cops into a trap to kill them, and as they enter, he begins. The cops begin to fire on the Penguin's thugs, but then through the garage door, Bruce, in his giant bat form, swoops in. He forms in front of the Penguin as he holds his knife, telling him, "It will take more than a cheap trick to." Bruce stops him, stating, "If I'm a trick, then you shall be the treat," and he bites down on the Penguin's neck. Bruce then turns to the thugs, telling the cop killers that he wants information, then their blood. Where's the rest of their gang? The next night, Gordon and Alfred return to the rooftops as Gordon says that he never thought that he would use the signal again. And as the light shines, Bruce swoops down asking if they think they can still summon him like the old times with a too difficult clue that they need help with. Gordon hands him a piece of paper with a riddle on it, and Bruce tells him to assume the worst. The city is plagued by the Riddler and Ivy and all of the others, but I too am a plague. So if you want help, I want blood. I will destroy and feed on them one by one. You best pray though that I can prevent them from returning as monsters to my side. And then he leaves. But as promised, Bruce begins to destroy his targets, first biting into the Riddler, then cutting off the Scarecrow's head with his own sickle and drinking the blood. And then finally, he appears before Ivy. Slowly, his red mist begins to fill her garden, and the leaves and the plants begin to wilt. She screams for him to get away, but Bruce tells her that she's always wanted him, but in his current form, it will be the only way that he could ever want her, and he tears into her neck. The following night, Alfred and Gordon see the bat signal shining into the sky, thinking that it's Bruce calling out to them, but as they step out holding a cross, just in case, Harvey tells them that he's rather amused by his presumed protection, and Killer Croc just laughs. Gordon asks how did they get up there, and Harvey tells him that they just want to get down to business. They both need the Batman stopped, and they each can't do it on their own. Gordon tells him to leave, he'll never work with him, but Harvey tells him that they could just kill him right now, but they won't. They want to give him some time to think about the proposal of working together, but time is running out. Alfred says that it's all his fault, but Gordon tells him to stop blaming himself. He is just as much at fault as he thinks he is. They must hope that a small part of Bruce still wants to be stopped. As Bruce flies onto his next target, he thinks how Harvey is a smart man trying to propose an alliance. Gordon and Alfred wouldn't stop him on their own. Not this time. Over in the wharf, Black Mask tells his men that they will not fold just because Harvey and some croc creep spin a scary tale about Batman becoming the boogeyman. But as he goes on, Bruce crashes through the windows, ripping the heads off the goons. One by one, Bruce moves through, killing each gangster, including Black Mask himself. And as the dawn begins to shine through the cells of the Blackgate Penitentiary, the criminals begin to see something outside. They see the heads of other criminals skewered along the fence, all looking back at them. Later, as the night begins to fall once more, Bruce makes his way to his next location, Arkham Asylum. Here, Bruce is not coming just to leave a message for the killer inmates inside. He has come for their heads. Moving from one cell to the next, in his bloody mist form, he kills each killer until the floors of the hallways run red with blood. Just as the nurse reports what's going on to Dr. Arkham, a severed head flies through the window, holding a note in its mouth. Dr. Arkham takes the note out, and written in blood, it tells him to go home. His work is done. Once word of what happened at Arkham travels, Gordon decides that they've hit rock bottom, and with what happened at Arkham, it changed things. Harvey tells Croc that it's time to join their new partners and scope out the haunt, map a plan, eradicate some badass bat. Gordon, Alfred, Harvey, and his men all head down into the cave below Wayne Manor to begin to prepare their trap. Gordon tells everyone that they're going to have to lure Batman into it, but Harvey asks how, and Alfred says that with the perfect bait, the one thing that he has always trusted, himself. Harvey says that the old man is bait, but what's the trap? What are they going to use to kill him? And Gordon tells him, the sun. It will have to be during the day. Tomorrow. But as the two discuss their plans, Bruce watches and listens, thinking that it's a good move on Gordon's part. But will it be enough? He remembers that not long ago, the sacrifices that had been made for him, the Catwoman, Selina, the demi-vampire, Tanya, each who died so that he can go on. Yet he takes no strength from their examples. With only Harvey and Killer Croc as acceptable prey, there won't be anything left. Next would be Blackgate, but the criminals are in for nothing but theft and less. They don't deserve his crimson mist. But even still after them, Gotham will be cleansed. And how long will it be before he stops taking heads? How long before he spawns his own family, even larger than the cult of Dracula? As the sun begins to rise on Gordon's cross, everyone begins to get into their positions to spring their trap, and once they have, Alfred calls out to his master, asking if he's there. Bruce shouts, I'm here, but I was hoping for more of you. Your pathetic trap couldn't snare a leech. Oak bolts begin to fly, and Bruce easily dodges them, and he swoops down to his first target, Killer Croc. He bites down, but his hide is too tough, and Croc grabs him by the neck. I will crush you like a ripe! But before he can finish, Bruce smacks him, stating, you're strong, but I'm stronger than you. And he begins to grip his hands around Croc's neck. Bruce brings him to his knees, and Gordon sees it a clear shot, and he fires a bolt. The bolt pierces Bruce in the back, and Gordon tells him, dear Lord, help me. I just shot Batman in the back. Bruce falls down into the pit below, and as Gordon and Alfred say their goodbyes, Harvey stands stands behind them holding 2 crossbows. He tells them that with the bats gone, their truce is over, and he fires. One bolt hits Gordon and another flies past Alfred, and the two begin to run. Croc follows Alfred, but Alfred begins to make his stand, stating he shall not fear him, and he fires his bolt. As the bolt hits Croc, it bounces off his chest, and he tells him, "Run, old man, make your juices hotter and sweeter." While Croc chases after Alfred, Gordon makes his way through the cave, silently shooting at each of Harvey's men. And in another part of the cave, Alfred makes his way through and he hears a voice call out to him for help. Alfred looks down on the chasm and a hand reaches up, grabbing him by the throat. Bruce tells him the bolt grazed his heart, but he needs to run while he can. Alfred tells him, "No, use my strength, use my blood to stop Harvey and Croc. All I ask is that you prevent me from coming back." Bruce rips the bolt out of his chest, stating, "After this, after you, after them, there will be no more." Not long after, Croc makes his way into the tunnel where Alfred ran, and as he steps in, he kicks something and he sees Alfred's head. He begins to hear fluttering and he looks back to see Bruce flying straight for him, snapping off a piece of the rock from the ceiling. He holds it forward and he flies as fast as he can, stabbing Croc and pinning him to the ground. He tells him, "You had a tough hide, but not tough enough. Thanks to a good man's sacrifice, I can keep your blood." Elsewhere, Harvey closes in on Gordon, holding his crossbows ready. But before he can fire, he hears something behind him. Harvey asks Bruce how, and he tells him, "The only way possible, a blood sacrifice, and now it's your turn." Harvey turns and he fires 2 bolts, and Bruce catches them in midair and tells him, "2 bolts, 1 for each face," and he slams them into the sides of Harvey's head. Bruce pulls the bolt out and he drinks from the blood, and he says that he used to stop murderers and prevent death, but now he is death and murder. Now with Alfred gone, he saved Gordon's life. He saved it for last. Gordon tells him no, but Bruce grabs him and he tells him, "Wake up, you damned mortal fool. Kill me or join me. Become me. Together time will be ours. Billions, one crimson feast after another. Oceans of blood. We will drink until the world is drained dry. So what will it be? Kill me or help me exterminate the human race? I won't be able to resist you much longer." The detonator, Bruce asks. "Where is it?" And through his struggles, Gordon tells him his belt. Bruce tells him to do it. "Run as if hell is at your heels, now!" Explosions begin to go off on the surface, and soon rocks begin to fall, allowing sunlight in. But as the rocks fall, Gordon sees that he used too much of the explosive. There's going to be an avalanche with no way out. May God have mercy, old friend, on both our souls. More rocks begin to fall, crushing Gordon, and Bruce tells him, "God will, old friend, at least on your soul and Alfred's." And as the light begins to fill the caverns, Bruce thinks to himself that there is only one monster left, himself. So he too will walk where Tanya walked before him, into the searing light that banishes all, surrendering his face and form, seeking true darkness of peace and the unknown fate of nothingness.
And there you have it. Make sure you check back, as we are going to be re-uploading all of these videos here quite frequently. And if this channel does well, eventually you'll begin to get them first here, then over on the main channel. Thank you, and don't forget to check out our main channel if you enjoy this type of storytelling by going over to Comicstorian. I'll see you next time.